But Meghan couldn't handle it because Meghan, like all malignant narcissists, just my opinion, has no sense of humor about herself.
It's sheer tykes, Jess, it's sheer. I mean, what is pantyhose?
Not for nothing have we been hearing reports that Harry is miserable, is lonelier than ever, that she's so busy over here trying to build her faux empire that he's got nobody to talk to because he has no real friends.
The rumors swirling around Hollywood right now are absolutely explosive, and what we're hearing from sources close to the situation is going to shock you to your core. Meghan Markle is reportedly begging networks for her own talk show deal, convinced that this will be her ultimate power move to resurrect her crumbling media empire. But here's the tea that insiders are spilling. Networks are literally running in the opposite direction. Sources reveal that Meghan has been shopping around what she believes is a groundbreaking concept, pitching herself as the next big thing in daytime television.
What was that you just added?
Flower sprinkles. I love them.
Wow, that's the gayest I've seen in a long time.
Word on the street is that she's absolutely convinced this talk show opportunity will catapult her back into relevance, earn her tons of cash, and finally give her the Hollywood power she's been desperately chasing since fleeing the royal family. One industry insider whispered to us that Meghan genuinely believes landing a TV talk show would be the ultimate vindication of her decision to abandon her royal duties. But the reality behind closed doors is painting a completely different picture. Sources close to major networks are saying that Meghan's reputation in Hollywood has become so toxic that executives won't even take meetings with her representatives anymore. The woman who once commanded millions from Netflix and Spotify is now allegedly being treated like radioactive waste by the very industry she thought would embrace her with open arms. The desperation is apparently palpable. Reports suggest that Meghan is pitching this talk show concept as her chance to showcase her interviewing skills and connect with audiences on a deeper level. She's reportedly telling anyone who will listen that she has fascinating stories to tell and important conversations to facilitate. But here's what's really happening.
Is there an inherent tension in trying to be relatable while also being a duchess?
No.
Industry professionals remember her disastrous attempts at hosting, from the Archetypes podcast that got brutally canceled to her awkward Netflix appearances that left viewers cringing. What makes this situation even more jaw-dropping is the timing. Just as her latest Netflix venture continues to underwhelm audiences and critics alike, Meghan is apparently convinced that traditional television is her salvation. Sources suggest she's been making the rounds, trying to convince network executives that she's learned from her past mistakes and is ready to deliver compelling content that audiences actually want to watch. But the whispers from inside these network meetings are telling a very different story. Industry insiders claim that executives are politely declining her pitches before she even finishes presenting them. The consensus seems to be that Meghan Markle has become too much of a liability, too associated with controversy and failure, to risk millions of dollars on another one of her media experiments. The most shocking part of all this is how completely out of touch Meghan appears to be with her own reputation. While she's allegedly pitching herself as a fresh voice in television, Hollywood insiders are reportedly laughing behind closed doors at the audacity of her latest reinvention attempt. But that was just the beginning of what sources are calling the most delusional career pivot in recent memory.
She is so insufferable, man, isn't she?
She is lying, JK.
The latest Bloomberg interview with Meghan has left royal watchers and media experts absolutely stunned by what can only be described as a masterclass in self-sabotage. In what was supposed to be a sophisticated business discussion, Meghan managed to expose just how completely disconnected she is from reality, with complaints that had industry professionals questioning her mental state. The most jaw-dropping moment came when Meghan actually complained about having to wear pantyhose during her brief stint as a working royal. She told Bloomberg it was difficult several years ago when she couldn't be as vocal and had to wear nude tights all the time, claiming it felt inauthentic because she hadn't seen pantyhose since movies in the 80s when they came in little eggs. The audacity of this woman to sit in front of cameras and complain about basic professional attire requirements is absolutely staggering. What makes this even more insulting is that Meghan worked in Hollywood for years before joining the royal family. Any actress worth her salt knows that pantyhose are standard on film and television sets to create smooth, flawless-looking legs under harsh lighting. For her to sit there and pretend she was some innocent victim forced into wearing hosiery is not just dishonest, it's completely ridiculous. But the contradictions don't stop there. This is the same woman who sat with Oprah Winfrey and claimed she was driven to suicidal thoughts by racist treatment from the royal family. Now she's telling Bloomberg that the worst thing she endured was having to wear pantyhose. Which story are we supposed to believe, Meghan? Were you facing life-threatening racism, or were you traumatized by basic dress code requirements? Sources close to the situation reveal that this Bloomberg interview was supposed to be Meghan's chance to position herself as a serious businesswoman and media mogul. Instead, she came across as a privileged woman who considers wearing appropriate undergarments to be some form of oppression. The disconnect between her victim narrative and her actual complaints is so stark that even her most devoted supporters are starting to question her credibility.
I love the idea of spending time together and finding new ways to show people you care. Look at that.
Oh my gosh, I could do this every day.
Let's get creative and learn something new.
Industry insiders are reportedly laughing behind closed doors at Meghan's latest attempt to rewrite history. The woman who allegedly leaked royal secrets to tabloids throughout her brief marriage is now claiming she had no voice during her time in the palace. The woman who had Prince Harry release unprecedented statements defending her is now pretending she was silenced and suppressed. What's truly shocking is how Meghan seems to believe that these complaints make her relatable to everyday women. She's sitting in her Montecito mansion, complaining about having to follow basic professional dress codes while positioning herself as some kind of feminist icon. The tone deafness is absolutely breathtaking. The Bloomberg interviewer seemed genuinely confused by Meghan's pantyhose obsession, and rightfully so. Here's a woman who had access to the finest designers, unlimited resources, and global platforms, and she's fixated on hosiery requirements. It's the kind of complaint that makes viewers wonder if she's completely lost touch with reality. But this disastrous interview was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to revealing why networks are staying far away from Meghan Markle. The entertainment industry is buzzing with one undeniable truth that executives are whispering about in boardrooms across Hollywood. Meghan Markle has become absolute kryptonite. Sources from major networks are revealing that her reputation is so toxic right now that mentioning her name in pitch meetings is basically career suicide for any agent or producer brave enough to try. Let's talk about the Netflix disaster that's still haunting her prospects. The streaming giant reportedly spent millions on her content, only to watch it crash and burn with audiences and critics alike. Industry insiders claim that Netflix executives are privately referring to their Meghan experiment as one of their biggest mistakes. The numbers don't lie, and the viewership for her shows has been absolutely catastrophic compared to the massive investment they made in her brand. But Netflix was just the beginning of her media destruction tour. Spotify brutally canceled her Archetypes podcast after she failed to deliver the content she promised, reportedly leaving millions of dollars on the table and burning bridges with one of the most powerful companies in audio entertainment.
This looks fantastic. There are easy ways to show up lovingly.
Oh, that actually is giving me goosebumps. That is so lovely.
Sources suggest that Spotify executives were so frustrated with Meghan's work ethic and lack of professionalism that they're now warning other platforms about working with her. The word spreading through Hollywood is that Meghan has become what industry professionals are calling toxic nuclear sludge. Every project she touches seems to implode, every partnership ends in disappointment, and every promise she makes turns out to be empty. Network executives are reportedly telling their teams that associating with Meghan Markle is a guaranteed way to destroy both reputation and profit margins. What makes this situation even more devastating for Meghan is that she allegedly doesn't seem to understand why doors keep slamming in her face. Sources close to the situation reveal that she genuinely believes her past failures were due to external factors rather than her own shortcomings. She's reportedly convinced that a talk show will be different because she'll have more control over the content and format. But here's what industry insiders are really saying behind closed doors. They've seen enough of Meghan's work to know exactly what they'd be getting. Her inability to connect with audiences, her tendency to make everything about herself, and her complete lack of authentic charisma have created a reputation that precedes her into every room she enters. The most shocking revelation coming from network sources is that some executives won't even allow their assistants to take calls from anyone associated with Meghan's team. She's become such a liability that major players in television are treating her like a contagious disease that could infect their entire operation. Entertainment lawyers are reportedly advising their clients to stay away from any projects involving Meghan because her track record of failed ventures and controversial statements makes her uninsurable from a public relations standpoint. The consensus seems to be that working with her is simply not worth the risk to anyone's career or bottom line. But the most damaging part of her reputation isn't just the professional failures, it's her track record as a host that's making everyone run for the hills. The brutal truth about Meghan Markle's hosting abilities is finally coming to light, and the evidence is absolutely damning. Her track record reveals a pattern of behavior that explains exactly why networks are treating her like she has the plague. The Archetypes podcast wasn't just a failure, it was a masterclass in how to alienate guests and audiences simultaneously. Sources who worked on archetypes are revealing shocking details about how Meghan actually conducted herself as a host. According to industry insiders, she had zero interest in interviewing hard-working, self-made women who didn't already have massive celebrity status. Instead, she allegedly sent producers to handle the quote-unquote regular people, while she reserved her personal attention exclusively for A-list celebrities like Mariah Carey and Paris Hilton. But here's where it gets even more insulting to her guests and her audience.
Her last memory of pantyhose is in like the egg, like the legs egg. Like if you're old enough to remember that, your mom had that. Your mom had that.
Reports suggest that Meghan didn't even write her own interview questions for these celebrity conversations. She allegedly relied on producers to craft thoughtful, engaging questions designed to pull interesting information out of these legitimate stars, then use those professionally written questions as vehicles to redirect every conversation back to herself. The most jaw-dropping revelation is how Meghan allegedly treated the very women her podcast was supposed to celebrate. Industry insiders claim that while she was happy to use their stories and experiences as content, she showed little genuine interest in their perspectives or achievements. Instead, every anecdote, every insight, every moment was apparently twisted back to focus on Meghan's own experiences and opinions. Sources close to the production reveal that guests often left their interviews feeling confused and frustrated. They came expecting to share their expertise and stories, but allegedly found themselves listening to Meghan talk about herself for the majority of their scheduled time. The disconnect between what was promised and what was delivered became a running joke among industry professionals. What makes this even more embarrassing is how transparent Meghan's self-obsession became during these interviews. Reports suggest that she would use guest responses as launching pads for her own lengthy monologues, rather than as opportunities to explore their perspectives deeper. The woman who claims to champion other women was allegedly using them as props in her own personal narrative. The Mariah Carey interview became legendary in Hollywood for all the wrong reasons.
They only really traffic in selling out the royals, in selling out their secrets, and trying to degrade the monarchy to the point where it reaches utter irrelevancy.
When Mariah playfully called Meghan a diva, sources say Meghan completely shut down because she couldn't handle even the gentlest teasing from someone who actually earned that title through decades of success. The woman who built her brand on being relatable and down-to-earth allegedly couldn't take a joke from one of music's biggest icons. Industry professionals who witnessed Meghan's hosting style describe it as painfully stilted and inauthentic. They claim she lacked the natural curiosity and genuine interest that make great interviewers compelling to watch. Instead, she apparently approached every conversation as an opportunity to promote her own agenda rather than truly connect with her guests. But the most damaging aspect of her hosting track record isn't just the professional failures, it's the personal character flaws that became impossible to hide. The Mariah Carey interview on archetypes has become the stuff of legend in Hollywood, but not for the reasons Meghan would want. What happened during that conversation exposed something absolutely critical about Meghan's character that explains why networks are terrified of giving her a platform. She has absolutely zero sense of humor about herself and cannot handle even the gentlest criticism. When Mariah Carey casually called Meghan a diva during their interview, sources say the entire energy of the conversation shifted. Mariah, who has been called a diva throughout her legendary career and embraces that title like the icon she is, was simply being playful and authentic, but Meghan allegedly became visibly uncomfortable and defensive, completely unable to laugh along with the observation. Here's what makes this moment so revealing about Meghan's psychology. Mariah Carey has earned the right to be called a diva through decades of incredible success, groundbreaking music, and genuine talent. She owns that label because she's actually accomplished enough to back it up. But when the same word was applied to Meghan, even jokingly, she apparently couldn't handle it because deep down she knows she hasn't earned that kind of recognition. Industry insiders who witnessed the interview describe Meghan's reaction as painfully awkward and telling. Instead of rolling with the joke or even playfully defending herself, she allegedly shut down emotionally and tried to redirect the conversation away from anything that might make her look less than perfect. The woman who claims to be authentic and relatable couldn't handle one moment of genuine, light-hearted honesty. What's even more embarrassing is how this reaction contradicts everything Meghan claims to represent. She positions herself as someone who's down to earth and real, but when faced with a harmless comment from someone who's actually achieved legendary status, she allegedly became defensive and uncomfortable. The mask slipped, and everyone in that room saw the real Meghan underneath. Sources suggest that Mariah Carey, being the seasoned professional she is, tried to smooth over the moment and keep the conversation flowing. But the damage was already done. Meghan's inability to handle even playful criticism revealed exactly why she's been such a disaster in every media venture she's attempted. The most shocking part of this whole incident is how it perfectly illustrates why talk show hosting would be an absolute catastrophe for Meghan. Great hosts need to be able to handle unexpected moments, roll with surprises, and maintain their composure when conversations take unexpected turns. They need to be able to laugh at themselves and create comfortable environments for their guests. But Meghan demonstrated the exact opposite of those qualities. Her defensive reaction to Mariah's comment showed that she's too fragile and self-conscious to handle the unpredictable nature of live television. Sources say this moment became a cautionary tale that's been shared throughout Hollywood as an example of why Meghan lacks the basic temperament needed for successful hosting. What makes this even more damaging to her reputation is that Mariah Carey is beloved throughout the entertainment industry. When word spread about how uncomfortable Meghan became over such an innocent comment, it reinforced every negative assumption that industry professionals already had about her character and professionalism. But this wasn't just an isolated incident of poor judgment. It was part of a pattern that industry insiders say reveals why even her own representation is allegedly jumping ship. The most shocking revelation rocking Hollywood right now is that even Meghan's own representation at William Morris Endeavor has allegedly jumped ship, leaving her scrambling to find anyone willing to stake their reputation on her increasingly desperate career moves. Industry insiders are calling this the ultimate kiss of death for any celebrity's prospects in entertainment. William Morris Endeavor is one of the most powerful talent agencies in the world, representing the biggest names in Hollywood and wielding enormous influence over who gets what opportunities. For an agency of this caliber to allegedly distance themselves from a client sends a message that reverberates throughout the entire industry. Sources suggest that WME executives realized that associating with Meghan had become more of a liability than an asset. The whispers coming from inside the agency paint a picture of complete frustration with Meghan's unrealistic expectations and constant demands for opportunities that simply don't exist for someone with her track record. Reports suggest that agents were growing tired of having doors slammed in their faces every time they tried to pitch Meghan for legitimate projects. What makes this situation even more devastating is the timing. Sources reveal that this alleged separation happened right around the time Meghan was supposedly shopping her talk show concept around town. Without the backing of a major agency, she's essentially trying to sell herself to networks with no professional representation to lend credibility to her pitches. Industry professionals are saying that losing WME representation is like having a scarlet letter branded across your career in Hollywood. It signals to every studio, network, and production company that even the people whose job it is to make you look good have given up trying. The message is clear: if your own agents won't represent you, why should anyone else work with you? But here's where the situation gets even more humiliating for Meghan. Sources suggest that WME didn't just quietly drop her from their roster. Word on the street is that they made sure other industry professionals understood that they were no longer associated with her projects or career moves. This kind of public distancing is unprecedented and absolutely brutal in terms of reputation damage. The most shocking part of this alleged split is what it reveals about Meghan's current standing in Hollywood. WME has represented controversial figures before and weathered many storms with their clients. For them to allegedly cut ties suggests that Meghan's toxicity has reached levels that even seasoned industry veterans can't manage or rehabilitate. Entertainment lawyers are reportedly telling their clients that the WME situation should serve as a warning about the risks of associating with Meghan in any professional capacity. When your own representation runs for the hills, it's usually because they've seen enough behind-the-scenes behavior to know that no amount of money is worth the headache. What's truly pathetic is that Meghan allegedly still believes she can land a major talk show deal without proper representation. Sources say she's been making direct approaches to network executives, apparently not understanding that this kind of amateur behavior only reinforces why professionals won't work with her. But losing her agency representation was just the beginning of a pattern that reveals how completely delusional Meghan has become about her actual value in the marketplace. The level of delusion Meghan displays about her own market value is absolutely staggering, and nowhere is this more obvious than in her pathetic attempts to position herself as some kind of champion for smaller brands while desperately begging for endorsements from luxury companies that want nothing to do with her toxic reputation. In her Bloomberg interview, Meghan had the audacity to claim that she deliberately chooses smaller brands to elevate them, as if she deserves a round of applause for every unknown label she wears. The woman is literally trying to spin her inability to secure major luxury endorsements as some kind of charitable act towards struggling designers. The desperation is absolutely palpable and embarrassing to witness. But here's the brutal reality that industry insiders are laughing about behind closed doors. Meghan would sell her soul to become the face of Cartier Tiffany, Prada, or Dior. Sources reveal that there were rumors floating around that Cartier was considering her for a campaign, and when the luxury house publicly denied ever having any interest in working with her, it was reportedly devastating to her ego and her team. The most pathetic part of her smaller brand narrative is that she's not actually supporting these companies out of genuine belief in their mission or products. Reports suggest that Meghan is typically an investor in every brand she promotes, which means she's financially benefiting from every purchase her followers make. It's not altruism, it's calculated self-interest disguised as charitable support. What makes this even more disgusting is that some of these so-called ethical brands she champions have been exposed for paying workers virtually nothing while charging hundreds of dollars for their products. Sources revealed that one handbag company she promoted was paying foreign workers around 25 cents per hour while selling bags for $300 to $400. So much for her commitment to empowering women and supporting fair labor practices. The luxury fashion world has reportedly blacklisted Meghan completely. Industry insiders claim that major houses view her as a liability who could damage their carefully cultivated brand images with her constant controversies and victim narratives. No established luxury brand wants to risk associating their reputation with someone who might drag them into royal family drama or create negative publicity. But the most telling aspect of this whole situation is how transparent Meghan's desperation has become. She keeps bringing up her support for smaller brands in every interview as if she's trying to convince the world that this was always her choice rather than her only option. The lady doth protest too much, and everyone can see right through the performance. Fashion industry professionals are reportedly rolling their eyes at Meghan's attempts to rebrand her rejection by major labels as some kind of conscious business decision. They know exactly what's happening. She's been shut out of the luxury market and is trying to make the best of a humiliating situation by pretending it was her idea all along. The most brutal part of all this is that even some of the smaller brands she does work with are starting to distance themselves from her. Sources suggest that being associated with Meghan has become more of a curse than a blessing, as her toxic reputation often overshadows whatever positive attention her endorsement might bring. But her delusional positioning in the fashion world is just one piece of a larger pattern of denial about why Hollywood has completely rejected her. The most sinister theory circulating through Hollywood right now involves what industry insiders are calling Meghan's potential nuclear option against Netflix, and it centers around the one card she might still have left to play, a Princess Diana documentary that could expose royal secrets and force the streaming giant to keep funding her failing projects out of sheer terror. Sources close to the situation reveal that Meghan and Harry have been dangling the possibility of a Diana documentary in front of Netflix executives like a carrot on a stick. Industry professionals suggest that this might be the only reason Netflix hasn't completely severed ties with the couple despite their string of expensive failures and underwhelming content performance. The buzz in royal circles is that Harry allegedly has access to personal information about his mother that has never been made public, and Meghan reportedly sees this as her ultimate leverage against both the royal family and her media partners. Reports suggest that she's been using the threat of Diana revelations to maintain her position in Hollywood even as every other door slams shut. But here's where this alleged strategy becomes absolutely diabolical. Sources claim that Meghan doesn't actually have any groundbreaking Diana secrets to reveal. Industry insiders whisper that Harry's knowledge of his mother is limited to childhood memories and secondhand stories, not the kind of explosive revelations that would justify a major documentary investment. What makes this situation even more twisted is that Meghan is reportedly willing to exploit Diana's memory and legacy purely for her own financial gain. The woman who never met Princess Diana is allegedly using her late mother-in-law's name as a bargaining chip to extend her relevance in an industry that has completely rejected her on her own merits. Entertainment lawyers are reportedly warning their clients that getting involved with any Diana-related content from Harry and Meghan would be playing with fire. The legal implications of making unsubstantiated claims about the royal family could result in massive lawsuits and international diplomatic incidents that no network wants to navigate. But the most shocking aspect of this alleged blackmail strategy is how it reveals the depths of Meghan's desperation. Sources suggest that she genuinely believes threatening to expose Diana's secrets will give her the power and leverage she needs to resurrect her dead career. The delusion required to think that exploiting a dead woman's memory will somehow make her popular again is absolutely breathtaking. Industry insiders claim that Netflix executives are growing increasingly frustrated with what they see as emotional manipulation and threats disguised as content proposals. The streaming service reportedly invested millions in Harry and Meghan expecting fresh, compelling content, not a series of ultimatums based on royal family gossip. The most pathetic part of this entire situation is that even if Meghan had legitimate Diana secrets to reveal, using them as leverage would only confirm what everyone already suspects about her character. She would be proving that she's willing to exploit anyone and anything, including her husband's deceased mother, for personal gain and media attention. But this alleged Diana documentary scheme isn't the only relationship that's crumbling under the weight of Meghan's toxic reputation. The most telling sign of just how toxic Meghan's reputation has become in Hollywood is the deafening silence from her former A-list friends, and nowhere is this more obvious than with tennis superstar Serena Williams, who appears to be quietly distancing herself from the Sussex chaos in ways that are absolutely devastating to Meghan's social standing. Industry insiders are noting that Serena, who once seemed genuinely close to Meghan, has been conspicuously absent from any promotion or support of Meghan's latest Netflix venture. This is the same woman who posted about Meghan's first Netflix series on her social media, but sources reveal that there hasn't been so much as a like or comment from Serena about the new season. The timing of this apparent friendship freeze is particularly brutal for Meghan. Serena is currently in New York for the US Open, making high-profile appearances and getting massive media coverage, yet there's no sign of her former royal friend anywhere near the action. Sources suggest that under normal circumstances, Meghan would be glued to Serena's side during such a prestigious event, using the opportunity to promote her own projects. But here's where the situation gets even more revealing about Hollywood's rejection of Meghan. When Serena recently inducted Maria Sharapova into the Tennis Hall of Fame, she was asked about meeting royalty and only mentioned Sarah Ferguson, completely ignoring her supposed friendship with Meghan. The snub was so obvious that industry professionals are calling it a public distancing strategy. What makes this friendship breakdown even more significant is that Serena's husband is incredibly wealthy and powerful as the co-founder of Reddit. These are people whose reputation and business interests are everything, and sources suggest they've made a calculated decision that associating with Meghan's constant controversies simply isn't worth the risk to their brand. The pattern emerging from Meghan's social circle is absolutely brutal. One by one, her famous friends seem to be implementing what industry insiders call the Taylor Swift strategy, quietly cutting ties with someone who has become toxic to their own reputation and career prospects. It's surgical, it's efficient, and it's devastating. But the most shocking aspect of Serena's apparent departure from Meghan's inner circle might be connected to the Dr. Sophie Chandoka controversy that erupted around Meghan's podcast. Sources whisper that Serena, who was mentioned frequently during that drama, may have decided she didn't want to be dragged into Meghan's pattern of creating chaos and controversy wherever she goes. Industry professionals are reportedly using Serena's distancing as a case study in how successful celebrities protect themselves from association with toxic figures. The tennis champion allegedly recognized that her own accomplishments and legacy were more important than maintaining a friendship that could damage her reputation. What's particularly brutal for Meghan is that Serena represents exactly the kind of successful, accomplished woman that she desperately wants to be associated with. Losing that connection isn't just personal, it's professional suicide. In an industry where relationships and endorsements are everything, the most pathetic part of this whole situation is that Meghan seems completely oblivious to how these friendship breakdowns reflect on her character and reputation. While her former friends are quietly building walls between themselves and her chaos, she continues pushing forward with delusional schemes like her talk show pitch. But all of these mounting failures and relationship disasters are pointing toward one inescapable conclusion about Meghan's future in Hollywood. The final verdict on Meghan Markle's talk show dreams is absolutely brutal, and industry professionals are united in their assessment that this latest reinvention attempt is dead on arrival before it even gets off the ground. The evidence is overwhelming, the track record is devastating, and the conclusion is inescapable. Hollywood has rendered its final judgment on the Duchess of Delusion. Every single piece of evidence points to the same crushing reality. Netflix has given up on her, Spotify brutally canceled her, major talent agencies have allegedly jumped ship, luxury brands won't touch her, and even her celebrity friends are quietly implementing exit strategies to protect their own reputations. The industry has spoken with one unified voice, and that voice is saying absolutely not to Meghan Markle. But the most damning aspect of this situation isn't just the professional failures, it's the complete lack of self-awareness that Meghan continues to display. While every door slams shut around her, she's still convinced that a talk show will somehow resurrect her dead career and transform her into the media mogul she's always dreamed of becoming. The delusion is so complete that it's almost tragic to witness. Sources from inside the television industry are reportedly laughing at the very idea of giving Meghan a platform to interview other people. Her track record shows that she's incapable of genuine curiosity about anyone other than herself. She can't handle even gentle criticism, and she lacks the basic charisma and authenticity that successful hosts require. The woman who made the Mariah Carey interview awkward thinks she can carry an entire television program. What makes this situation even more pathetic is that Meghan seems to believe that traditional television is somehow her salvation, when the reality is that streaming platforms have already proven that audiences don't want to watch her content. If Netflix subscribers won't stick around for her heavily produced shows, what makes her think network television viewers will tune in for her unscripted conversations? The most brutal truth that industry insiders are whispering is that Meghan has become a cautionary tale about what happens when someone mistakes royal titles for actual talent and celebrity status. She rode her brief marriage into Hollywood expecting red carpet treatment, but the entertainment industry quickly realized that she brought nothing to the table except controversy and entitlement. But here's the most devastating part of this entire debacle. Even if some desperate network were willing to take a chance on Meghan's talk show concept, the ratings would be catastrophic. The American public has already decided what they think of her, and the verdict isn't favorable. Her approval ratings are in the basement, her content consistently underperforms, and her brand is associated with failure and toxicity. The entertainment lawyers, the agents, the executives, and the producers have all reached the same conclusion. Meghan Markle is box office poison. She's the kind of celebrity who guarantees that whatever project she touches will struggle to find an audience and generate negative publicity. No rational business person would invest millions of dollars in someone with such a consistently disastrous track record. So while Meghan continues to pitch her talk show dreams to anyone willing to listen, the reality is that Hollywood has already moved on. The industry that once seemed so promising when she first arrived from England has closed its doors permanently. Her talk show ambitions aren't just unlikely to succeed, they're impossible to launch in the first place. Drop your thoughts below about Meghan's delusional Hollywood dreams. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because the next video is waiting, and you won't believe what bombshell we're uncovering next about the Sussex Circus.